For centuries, fishes, seals, and sea otters have lived together in the giant kelp forests. These silent forests are their homes, their pantries, and their nurseries to raise their young. For the more than 100 species of fish and the thousands of species of animals that eat, mate, and die among the towering columns of kelp, the struggle for survival continues in a self-perpetuating, self-regulating balance. Marine mammals, such as this harbor seal, play an essential role in the web of life in the kelp bed community. There is a natural balance in the kelp bed, similar to the balance of the terrestrial wilderness on coral reefs and in deep ocean trenches. The kelp forest provides protection and food for marine life. Seals feed upon fishes, but these fishes swim in the canopy of the kelp forest, hidden or camouflaged from the searching eyes of their predators. In springtime, we met this harbor seal while studying the kelp community. She had 2 fish hooks embedded in her back and mouth, and she could not remove them. The consequences of these injuries could have been fatal. Much to our surprise, the harbor seal swam up to us. The harbor seal turned its back and we removed the barbed hooks. We named the seal Fish Hook, and a bond of mutual trust was established between us. We returned to dive near her home many times that spring. As soon as we descended into her realm, Fish Hook would be there to greet us. She would playfully nip at our gear and then roll on her stomach for a friendly scratch. We always look forward to these special encounters with our new friend. During the autumn, we returned to renew our friendship. For 4 days, Fish Hook was nowhere to be seen. On the 5th day, our friend suddenly appeared, but she kept her distance. Darting up and down through the kelp forest, she quickly disappeared behind a ledge. Then, she dove down to get our attention. This time, she was accompanied by a very timid white pup. That day, our 2 friends entertained us with an aquatic ballet through the fronds of the silent forest. fishhook's home is the giant kelp plant called Macrocystis pyrifera. Forests of this giant kelp stretch from Baja California to Alaska. Hugging the shoreline in beds hundreds of feet wide, Macrocystis is the fastest growing plant in the world. It grows up to 24 inches in one day. The kelp plant provides a unique marine environment. New stipes emerge from the anchoring holdfast and race upwards toward the sun. These stipes twist together like sheltering tree branches. As the leaf-like fronds lengthen and divide, they are buoyed up by air bladders. When the stipes and fronds reach the surface, they bend and flow with the currents, forming the kelp canopy. The kelp utilizes the sunshine for photosynthesis and sends collected nutrients down through the stipes to the holdfast. The golden canopy hides schools of fishes, crabs, and snails. Some of these animals, like the kelp snail, will climb up and graze on the stipes of the kelp plant, lose their grip, and then fall to the bottom of the forest. The inhabitants found on the bottom of the kelp forest are specially adapted to live here. Flatfish, like this flounder, hug the sand as they cruise the bottom. These fish are able to change colors to match their environment, creating a natural camouflage. In an attempt to claim their territory, two sheephead confront each other. Rockfish finds refuge near the kelp's holdfast. Nearly every major phylum of marine species is represented in the kelp's holdfast. Here, a lobster finds security in a crevice. The holdfast serves as the anchoring structure of the kelp plant. The holdfast is comprised of thousands of root-like fingers called haptera. Around and in this complex structure live hundreds of animals, such as eels, abalone, fishes, isopods, brittle stars, and tunicates. Larger holdfasts can harbor thousands of small animals, some utilizing plant tissues as food, others taking advantage of the shelter. What we perceive as a silent forest is actually a world filled with microsonic noises. Kelp snails make a crunching noise as they forage on the kelp plant. Crabs and lobsters make scraping sounds as they scavenge the haptera and surrounding sandy bottom for food. Eels, lobsters, and octopuses find shelter in the surrounding rocks of the holdfast. An octopus probes into a hole in search of his favorite dinner, a lobster. The lobster shares this crevice with an eel. The eel is waiting for his dinner, an octopus. This is a classic predator-prey fight for survival. A jellyfish, a creature specifically designed for the open waters, is caught helplessly between the dense stipes and fronds in the kelp forest. His tentacles entangle in the mesh of kelp stipes, making him a prisoner. The jellyfish struggles, but to no avail. With its tentacles cut and shredded by the stipes of the kelp plant, the jellyfish drifts to the bottom. It is now easy prey for animals in the kelp community. The jellyfish's misfortune attracts the curious Garibaldi, who surveys the remains and samples this different taste treat. The Garibaldi spits out the jellyfish and returns to his nest and eggs. The reddish area is the Garibaldi's nest. The male Garibaldi guards the eggs in the nest from predators like the starfish and other fishes. The loud clicking noise made by the Garibaldi's jaws is used to threaten such intruders. There are many symbiotic relationships in the kelp forest. A special one involves the blacksmith and senorita. It is a ritualistic cleaning behavior. Blacksmith stop swimming and assume a vertical, head-down position, which attracts the senorita fish. Here, the senoritas earn their dinner by picking the parasites off the blacksmith's scales and gills. For most sea otters, the kelp forests are their homes. The irresistible otter wraps his body with the stipes of the kelp plant. Floating on his back, he will spend much of his time in this tied-up position as he eats, sleeps, and preens his thick fur. With a diet of abalone, crabs, clams, and urchins, a sea otter will consume more than 5,000 pounds of food in 1 year. Sea otters control the major predators of kelp, the sea urchins. At one time, the sea otter was thought to be extinct. Valued for their furs, over 1 million sea otters had been slaughtered on the Pacific coast by 1911. Now, they are protected by law, and they have begun to multiply and slowly increase their habitat. Winter storms hit the submarine forest with a devastating violence. Surging swells repeatedly and relentlessly pull and tug at the kelp's anchorage. The holdfasts cling tenaciously. The grip of this haptera has been weakened by the grazing of its inhabitants. Suddenly, the holdfast surrenders to an exceptionally large swell and is carried shoreward. Deposited on the beach, the kelp becomes a menace to swimmers and a welcomed smorgasbord to awaiting shorebirds. Another destiny could await the storm-ridden kelp. Buoyed towards the surface by thousands of air bladders, the holdfast and its community of life is left exposed and vulnerable. This holdfast becomes entangled with other uprooted kelp plants, and a kelp raft is formed. A kelp raft supports a living cargo of thousands of animals in the holdfast and protects fishes in its canopy. Obtaining enough energy through photosynthesis, the kelp raft survives and drifts aimlessly with ocean currents, destination unknown. One theory suggests that giant kelp drifted thousands of miles to establish itself along our Pacific coastline. Will this raft wash ashore on some sandy beach? Or will it drift with the currents and provide seed for a new forest of life at the edge of a distant coast? A kelp forest is not invulnerable. These sea urchins live in what was once one of the largest kelp beds in the world. Wesley Marks, author of The Frail Ocean, described this California offshore area. Recently, I roamed through a dying forest. Neither bulldozers nor humming power saws killed this particular forest. Huge seaweed plants called giant kelp once formed lush foliage that sheltered life as profuse and vital as that of any land forest. Today, the forest is no more. What killed this forest? Sewage effluent nurtured excessive sea urchin growth. Here is a sea urchin eating. Sea urchins, predators of kelp, graze the bottom of all plant life at the rate of 33 feet per month. By 1960, the lush golden foliage of some of the kelp beds off Los Angeles and San Diego had been reduced to an occasional plant. A report commissioned by the Secretary General of the United Nations stated, "Using the sea as a dump is potentially more dangerous than any other way in which man changes the sea."